Hello, Saji. How are you?
Hi, Peter.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you again.
We are here back to talk about chapters 4, 5, and 6 in the book. And I thought a good place to start would be to ask you if you could tell us a little bit about where we are and what your role is in this place where we are.
Okay, all right. Going forward, talking about Rust to Trust, Peter's book. We are right here on location at Jesus House, Elk Ridge. Right here, what I do here is I help the worship team, the praise team, to just give praise to God, but to do it professionally and do it with excellence. So this is where we are today.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Peter.
I thought a good place to start is where we left off last time.
Right.
And I left off asking 3 questions to the audience. And
Right.
the first question was to think about if you're a me person or you're another focused person.
Right.
And I thought that I would answer that question based on the last couple weeks and somebody that I met. First of all, I know that I'm an other focused person because of my mission statement. It talks about inspiring the greatness in other people, as well as myself. I met a girl named Caitlin in Nantucket, Massachusetts. And Caitlin shared a story with me that she and many other massage therapists were invited to go to the Boston Marathon to give volunteer massages this year to all the athletes at the Boston Marathon. And she was one of 30 massage therapists from around the country that volunteered to go. And it made me feel so good to be in the presence of a person who I knew was other focused, because she gave her entire weekend to be with those athletes and give free massages. So I thought that was pretty interesting. And I always say that, it's how you feel when you're around people that are other focused, and you know that you yourself are other focused.
That's great.
So the second question I'm going to ask your help on, and the question that I asked was, is there a problem or a challenge in your life that could benefit from setting a vision or beginning a Rust to Trust journey? And a personal challenge for me, which I've shared with you, just happens to be going back to church.
Right.
And having a daughter that's now 26 years old. We went to church all during her early years to her teen years, and she went off to college and we stopped going to church. So that's something that I've shared with you, and we're actually here in your church. So, any words of wisdom to help me take that first step in the journey?
I think the word of wisdom too. I think the first great thing you've done is you've acknowledged it, that this is something you need to take a step on. I think now it's time to get yourself around someone, and you have me, who can help you that, hey, Peter, today is Sunday, we've got to go to church. It's like, oh my, okay, let me work on it. It's okay, you can't make it one Sunday, you can't make it second Sunday. Saji, you know what? The third Sunday I have to make it. And then before you know it, it's part of your schedule, and then you just become a regular. And guess what? Once you become a regular, you now say, you know what can I do in the spirit of other focus and service? And once you get engaged in service and you start serving, so you just become automatic like something else. So but I can understand, right, taking the step that, okay, missed a couple of Sundays, not being able to go or attend the Bible study, but before you know it. But the key in what I'm saying is, once you get someone who can say, maybe that's the same thing you can do with me, like running, biking, and exercise. Because if nobody drags me to the gym, I might not go.
Okay.
So maybe we can do a trade like that.
Be careful,
I get you
be
to
careful
church.
what you wish for.
I'm not going to do triathlon, but that's how we can do that.
Thank you. The third and last question that I asked last time was, what would you like your legacy to be? And I want to answer that question myself, and the way I want to answer it is the way that one of the speakers at our recent LeaderCast asked the question is, what would you like to be thanked for at the end of your life? And I talked last week about the book and how I wrote the book as a legacy for my daughter and for the employees at work, and so everyone would know what I stood for. But I want to be thanked at the end of my life for treating people the way I would like to be treated. So thank you for helping me go through that. I think we should progress and talk about what we're here for, and that is chapters 4, 5, and 6.
4, 5, 6. Okay, let's get to it.
So the first area in chapters 4, 5, and 6 would be actually getting started on your journey. So this is a really good segue with your advice of taking the first step.
Right.
And I haven't taken the first step, but I'm actually here in church, in your church, so
You've
maybe
taken the first
today
step.
is really the first step. So thank you.
That's good.
I think in taking the first step, it really does require faith and courage. And as you're talking to me, I think it often helps to have a coach.
Right.
And I'm looking at you as my spiritual coach. And
Okay.
maybe you're looking at me as your
Physical
exercise
fitness,
coach.
exercise coach.
Right.
Saji, get up.
So I said last time that I wouldn't tell the same stories that are in the book, but I would like to tell a short story about Kathy's parents, my in-laws.
Okay.
And they're 87 and 88 years old.
Wow.
And their Rust to Trust journey is that they are living in a house in Cary, North Carolina, a very large house. And it's getting to the point where they can't take care of the house inside or outside. And because of when they were born in the Depression era, they won't have anyone cut the grass, they'll do it themselves. They won't have anybody clean the house, they'll try to do it themselves. And it's really becoming unmanageable. And they know that they cannot continue to live in that house. And they have to begin looking at what's the next living situation for them.
Right.
They actually took the very first step, and they came up to Ellicott City.
Wow.
And they went to Miller's Grant, and they stayed a couple nights to see if they would like to live in a continuing care facility and what it would be like. And they were blown away. They just absolutely loved the whole setup. And so they went back to Cary, to their house, and now they have a real problem. They're filling out the application, but it's really takes a lot of faith and courage to pick up from 6 hours away and come to a brand new area that you don't have doctors, you don't know the people, and so that's their Rust to Trust journey.
That's
And
great.
I think they've taken the first step, but like any Rust to Trust journey, it's going to be a challenge. And
It is.
there's going to be some obstacles
It is.
along the way. So the next area I want to talk about is defining your purpose and your mission statement. And I'm going to ask for your help with that. But I wanted to say that, my mission statement here, I'm actually here and actually doing this video project, and I actually wrote the book because of my mission statement. My mission statement really defines who I am. And I think about a mission statement much like I think about the Constitution of the United States. The country has a mission statement called the Constitution of the United States. And it really is a living, breathing document. And everyone looks up to that. And everything's measured against that. And decisions are made against that. And that's how I look at a personal mission statement. Companies have a mission statement.
Right.
And I'm here with you in your church. And I just looked at the mission statement
of the
on
church.
on the wall, talking
Right.
about developing
Leaders with sustainable character.
And I just love that because it's short and it says it all.
Right.
That's what the mission is. And the key to a mission, whether it's personal or business, is to make sure that it's a living document, that you can make decisions based on that mission statement. So with that, I wondered if you could talk a little bit about your mission and your unique gifts.
Okay. My mission, it's a good thing you say, because there is somebody that explained what submission is. He says submission is really putting yourself under the mission. That when you have a mission and you are sub to that mission, so it really guides what you think, what you do, how you act, how you relate with people. So my personal mission statement is to help people find true happiness by helping them discover their purpose, developing their gift, and deploying the gift. Because a lot of people are doing what they think they want to do, but you see that they are not happy. It doesn't matter if they have money, it doesn't matter what they do, they're just not happy. It's like, you have money, you have all this stuff, why are you still not happy? when I discovered it's just they're here to find that thing. So I think people can find true happiness if they discover their gift, if they develop it, and most importantly, if they can just deploy it, help people with it, serve people with it, either paid or not. I think that is where true happiness. So, and I help people do that a lot, just get that clarity. You know, so that is what I consider my mission statement. Although I need to go a little step further and frame it just like just like Peter did, you know. But I think it really guides us. And another thing I saw from your book is when you talk about the motto of Mid-Atlantic, you know, and that gets me thinking, Saji, what is your motto? You know, what is that tagline? And I thought about it for about 5 minutes, and I wrote it down. I said this. Stay positive.
Stay positive.
Just my motto. Yeah. No matter what it is, just stay positive.
Yeah. I think that defines you also. So I've known you for just about a year now.
Right.
And I think I know that whenever I see you, you're smiling. And you make me smile.
That's a great thing.
And I think you're very positive.
Thank you, Peter.
I wanted to share a story that I met a friend of mine this week, and he asked if he could have lunch with me. And we had lunch together, and I said, "What's on your mind?" And he said, "I've been working for the same company for 10 years." And he said,
Wow.
"I've never been so unhappy in my life."
Wow.
He said, "I was approached by a friend of mine to interview for a company very far away on the opposite coast. And I went out for the interview. And he said, it was a good interview. I called my friend and asked, where do I stand? 4 people interviewed. He said, well, you're not in the top 2.
Wow.
And he was disappointed. And he said, but you are the #1 candidate. And he's going June 15th to meet with the president. And he's going to get an offer.
Wow.
And he's asking me, what should I do? And I said, tell me a little bit about your mission statement. And he looked at me and he said, mission statement, what is that? And he ultimately knew the right thing to do. He knew why he was unhappy. He knew what he was looking for. And the mission statement really was inside of him. And he just hadn't written it down, but he knew what his mission statement was. And that's what I say about mission statements, is that, you know, written down or not written down, it's something that you can rely on to make those very tough decisions in life. And we will all have those tough decisions in life.
Right. So if you are listening, I think one thing you can get from this is, if you have a personal mission statement, what Peter is saying and what this book is going to do for you is it's going to help you guide your decisions. It's going to make your life so simple because you can wake up every day and just be on a mission.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great thing.
Yeah. I like the idea of holding a remote control. And when you have a mission statement, you're holding your own remote control.
And you can change the channel you
If
want.
you don't have a mission statement, or you don't have a mission statement inside, then you've given the remote control to someone else, and they're just going to push your buttons all day and have you do something that you don't really want to do. So holding that remote control is
your mission statement.
Is your mission statement.
So I hope you get your your remote control so that you can watch the channels you want in your own life and not have people pre-program it for you. That's a great one, Peter.
Thank you. The last area I want to talk about is one of my favorites, and it's talking about principles and living by principles. And as you know with the book, that it's my tips for living a principle-centered life. So you know that the book is based on living principles. And I look at principles as gravity. Gravity is a principle. Okay, the principles that I'm so familiar with are principles of human effectiveness. Okay, and I look at principles as the boss. You know, that I don't need to have a boss at work if I'm following principles. And I think that's a really powerful statement, that people can work independently. People can, you know, have their own projects, have their own things to do, as long as they're principle-centered. I look at principles like a lighthouse. That if you're sailing in the water and you see a lighthouse, you can't move that lighthouse. I mean, that's what a principle is. You can't. Principles are timeless. They're, you know, if you go to Nigeria. You're going to see principles in effect the same that you're going to see in Maryland.
They are constant.
They're constant, and they're universal, and they're timeless. So I thought I would share a couple of my principles. When you look at my mission statement, I've actually included my 4 major principles in my mission statement. Love, leading and leadership, learning, and living. And I really do follow those. And at work we have 3 principles: focus, prevention, and interdependence. And those things mean different things to, whether if it's me talking about leadership. I met you at the LeaderCast a year ago because I'm interested in learning. I'm interested in learning leadership, and that's how you and I met.
Right.
I think the idea is to incorporate your principles. You can go onto Google and you can Google principles of human effectiveness. You can give me a list of the top 50 principles, and you can pick your 3 or 4 that really identify with your unique gifts, and you can begin to live by those principles. And I think anyone that's listening to this, if they can find those 3 principles and really maybe write a statement about how they're going to live in accordance with those principles will help keep them aligned with their true mission and their true gifts.
Okay, that is really awesome. So I think it's a great thing. I love something. One quote I got from your book is, "There are no shortcuts to long-term success." And I think that's very, very good, because you said principles over time, they help you shape your decisions. And your decisions are made easier when you are someone of principle. I also like the fact that principles are the roots and the foundation upon which everything is built. And also principles provide the boundaries and the parameters to make your decision. So I hope you've gotten something from this. First, we talked about taking the first step. I will link that to your purpose and your personal mission statement, and now laying the foundation for all that with your principles. And I sincerely hope that from this book, Rust to Trust, and Peter has helped you to go from rust to start trusting by laying the foundation of success, which are your principles. One thing your book did for me, although I have this thing inside of me, but I think I started formalizing them. Saji, what is your personal mission statement? What is your personal vision? What are your principles? What are your values? And it's very, very important to write this thing down so that when the time comes to make decisions, like you said about your friend, that once you know your mission, you know the principles you live by, decisions are very, very easy. So thank you so much for the book.
One of the things I picked up from your comment, just thinking about principles, is, we started the first video, we were talking about roles. And I introduced you and you introduced me, and we talked about our different roles. And today we talked about your role in the church. Right. And roles actually have to do with relationships, because you have a role with yourself, relationship with yourself, but your role is, there's always other people that are involved in your role. That's true. And so the idea of trust, for us to trust, the word trust is a principle. And being trustworthy is everything in relationships. And when you break a trust, when you're not trustworthy, when you're not following that principle, it can really make your life miserable. It's so hard to get that trust back when you lose that trust. So trust is everything. And that's really the title of the book, is trying to talk about going from being rusty to accomplishing something major, but it always has to do with trust. It always has to do with trusting relationships.
That is awesome. So I hope, so can you tell the listeners where they can get this book?
They can get the book on Amazon.com.
Okay.
And I'm going to end this series with 3 questions, if that's okay, for next time.
Okay.
Next time is going to be the next 3 chapters in the book, which will be chapters 7, 8, and 9. And the first question is going to have to do with stumbling blocks. And I just like to ask people to think about, was there ever a time in their life when they were embarked on a journey, maybe a similar Rust to Trust journey, but then things didn't go as they were planned. They didn't go according to plan, and I just wonder what they did. Did they finish the journey? Did they stop? The second question would have to do with culture, because we're going to talk about culture. And just reflect on a culture in your life. You know, we're sitting here in your church, and this church has a culture.
That's
you know, your family has a culture. Mid-Atlantic Rubber has a culture.
Right.
And I would ask people to think about, you know, if you're not married, and maybe if you're not even working, maybe you have a culture that you grew up with, the family that you grew up with. What was that culture like? Was it a good culture where you felt like you could grow and succeed, or was it maybe not a very good culture? And what was your ability to impact the culture? And you think about, you know, can we influence a culture? Can you influence a culture here? Can you influence the culture in your family? So we're going to talk about that next time. And the last question would be to think of a paradigm. Think of a thought, your thought about something that you've had in the past, and has it changed? Think of a paradigm that you've had about something and the paradigm's actually changed based on maybe changing roles or maybe getting older.
Right.
And we're going to talk about paradigms, and one of the best ways to grow as a person is to really challenge the paradigms that you have, because we all have thoughts based on the way that we were brought up and the experiences that we've had, but the real growth comes from examining those paradigms and knowing when to change them and when to say, that paradigm doesn't fit what I'm doing anymore. So I'll go through some of those and tell you some of my experiences next time with those, and maybe you could do the same thing for the people listening.
Sure will.
Is that okay?
That sounds good.
I'd like to ask you, Saji, if maybe there are some closing comments, or maybe one question that you might have for me, or closing comments on these chapters 4, 5, and 6.
Well, I think I'll go with the question.
Okay.
So if someone is listening, someone is watching, and say, Peter, you know, I do so many things. I don't just know how to put all this stuff together into a mission statement. If someone is to develop his or our own personal mission statement, what 1, 2, 3 steps can you give them? You know, you can look into the camera and tell them how to do it.
I think the first step that I would do is to go out and buy a journal and a pen. And the second thing I do is schedule some quiet time. When I did my mission statement, I actually went to Florida. I coupled it with a business trip, and I stayed 3 extra days in a gorgeous resort, and I went down to the pool, and I put some headphones on, and I began writing. Writing. When you go through the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People training, there's a day 2, you actually go through a mission statement writing exercise, and you write continuously for 4 minutes after you've answered a bunch of questions. I think the big thing that I would try to do is begin becoming self-aware. Become aware of things that really bug you. Write them down. Become aware of things that make the hair stand up on your arms. I told you about the girl that did the free massages up in Boston. I mean, that just made the hair stand up on my arms. And I gave her a copy of my book, and I signed it, and she sent me a note and told me how much it meant to her. So getting in touch with yourself and really going a little bit deeper. It's hard to go deeper when you're in the day-to-day operations because you're so busy. But schedule some free time, get the journal, begin making notes, and then you'll find your mission, you'll detect it, and just keep working at it. It's not going to happen overnight, but keep working at it.
Sounds good. I hope you go and try and do that this week. You're going to get in touch with a lot of people this week. Then make sure you are one of the people. Get in touch with yourself. That's a great one.
Thank you, Saji.
It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for inviting me to your church.
Thank you for coming, Peter. And I want to also thank the people that helped us with today's video. Victor, Daniel, Thank you so much. And thank you to all the leadership of Jesus House Elkridge and to Pastor Milverton for allowing us to see it and use this beautiful space. It's been a pleasure, Peter.
Thank you. See you next week.
You too.